everyone, I'm Bia, and welcome back to Kardec Radio for Teens. For those of you who might not know, Kardec Radio for Teens is a place where teens can come together with other teens to learn about Spiritist teachings and topics in a way that makes more sense to us and is more relatable to us as teenagers in today's society. We have been, for a long time now, we've been reading through the Spirits book, and we've been going page by page, question by question, word by word, trying to understand to the best of our ability right now the basics of Spiritism. And we have gotten past the parts where we talked about the spirit world, the corporeal world, kind of like the sciencey things, and all these like physical sciencey things we've already talked about, but now we're talking about our morals. And we constantly refer to going up a ladder, and at the top of or a staircase, and the top is perfection, and that's where we're trying to go. And we're just keep climbing, we just keep learning new things, gaining new experiences, and we keep climbing this ladder. So how do we get to the top? And one of the ways that we get to the top is not only just being, let's say, smart. It is not enough to just be smart, but also to have good morals. And there are these moral laws and moral things that we should follow to get up to the top. So this week we're going to be talking about the law of destruction. And so we're going to talk about that law and that specific in relation to like moral behaviors and stuff. And the first section we're going to start off with is necessary destruction and abusive destruction. Question 728. Is destruction a law of nature? So, is for stuff to be destroyed a law of nature? And the Spirits answered, it is necessary for everything to be destroyed in order to be reborn and regenerated. What you call destruction is no more than transformation that is aimed at renewing and improving living beings. So yes, destruction isn't a natural law, and we need it, because imagine if we didn't destroy everything. Then we would just be crazy. We'd just be adding more stuff, and it'd be like hoarding, kind of. Like, we would just have all this stuff and we didn't destroy anything. So destroying is necessary, and also it's necessary for when we need to start over or go through trials again. We need to kind of start back at the beginning or kind of renew our way of living. So destruction is necessary for improving and helping ourselves. And if we think about it, like they were saying, destruction, it's no more than a transformation, because as we know, as we've learned in the Spirits book, that our life is for eternity. So we're not completely destroying stuff. We'll be able to get stuff back, stuff will be recreated, but right now we're just transforming it for what's in the best interest for people. And then there's a second part to this question, and it says, has the destruction instinct been given to living beings for providential purposes? So your destructive instinct, why? Basically, it's why do we have that? Was there a reason why we have a destructive instinct? And the Spirits answered, God's creatures are the instruments that God uses for attaining the divine ends. In order to feed themselves, living beings destroy each other with the dual purpose of maintaining the balance of reproduction, which might otherwise become excessive, and utilizing the remains of their external envelopes. But it is only the envelopes that is destroyed. The envelope is only an accessory and not an essential part of a thinking being. The essential part is the indestructible intelligent principle, which is developed through various metamorphoses that it undergoes. So what they're saying here is that, yeah, God uses us as instruments to, if he needs something done, not if he needs something done, but, okay, maybe in our plan there's this destruction of something that has to be planned. We're his, instruments for implementing that. So, yeah, we do have that kind of destruction instinct in us. And like he said, and like the Spirit said, it might be kind of in a different way. Here it says, in order to feed themselves, living beings destroy each other. So which is awful, and we want to move past that. But right now, God knows that living beings, they're going to destroy each other for food. But at the same time, this is also helping maintain the balance of reproduction, because imagine if no one died. Think about how overpopulated our Earth would be if no one died. So this also maintains the balance of reproduction. So so God is utilizing us and like kind of making the situation kind of like a perfect situation, even though it might not seem like, oh, that person died to help maintain reproduction. No, that wasn't it. But it has like kind of a second effect. And also we know that when people, let's say when people are destroyed, we know it's only the material body, because their spirit and their intelligence is still preserved, and that's not going to be touched. It is only this physical material body that is being destroyed. Question 729. If destruction is necessary for the regeneration of beings, why does nature surround them with the meaning of self-preservation and conservation? Okay, so now the question's asking, okay, so if we do need destruction, and destruction is necessary sometimes, then why do we have the means of self-preservation and conservation, which are like the opposite of destruction? Like, oh no, like, I don't want to destroy myself, I want to keep myself intact, I want to preserve this. So why do we have both destruction and conservation? And the spirits answered, to prevent their destruction before the proper time. Any destruction that occurs too soon retards the development of the intellect principle. That is why God has given to each the need to stay alive and reproduce. So we don't want also, what they're saying here is that we don't want also people to just being like, oh yes, I eventually am going to destroy myself or destroy something, so I'm going to do that right now. No, we don't want that. So we have this self-preservation. We want to stay alive. We want to preserve things. And so that way, with that preservation, it holds us back from just like destroying everything or just not wanting to be alive. So God created this like perfect balance, like this fine line for us. Question 730. Since death should lead us to a better life and deliver us from the ills of this world, and should therefore be desired instead of dreaded, why do humans have an instinct of horror of it and see it as a cause for apprehension? So here they're saying, so we know from reading the Spirit's book that when we die from this corporeal world, we're gonna go to a good place and we're just gonna keep learning and then we're gonna be able to come back. So why are people, like, on Earth, why are people so afraid of dying, and why do they think something horrible is gonna happen when we know that we're just gonna learn some more, come back, learn some more, and we're gonna be fine? So why do we have such, like, this horror of dying? And the spirits answered, we have already stated that humans should seek to prolong their life in order to accomplish their task. That is why God has given them the self-preservation instinct. It sustains them in all their trials. Without it, they would frequently give in to discouragement. The secret voice that tells them to avoid death also tells them that they may yet do something more for their progress. Whenever danger threatens them, it is a warning to them that they must take advantage of the time God has granted them. But integrates usually give thanks to their lucky star instead of their creator. So why do we're talking about why do people see death as such a horrible thing when we know it's not? And we have this in us to help us, like, want to stay alive. Because what if we were all like, oh yeah, dying is fine, it'll be fine. So then we would be kind of careless, and not that we would want death, but if it did happen, we would be like, oh, it's fine. So this helps us have this kind of self-preservation and make us want to stay alive, and then know that the longer we're alive in this corporeal world, even though it's just one reincarnation, the longer we have, the more trials we can overcome and the more we can learn and grow. But if we like die early on, then we're just gonna have to restart the process again. But if we want to stay alive and we stay alive for a while, then we can accomplish more goals and more objectives. And then they're saying that sometimes when people have like like near-death experiences or like scary experiences, it's kind of to like shake this person awake a little and being like, hey, you still have a lot that you want to get done in this life, so try not to do anything to die right now, because you still have a lot you need to get done or that you want to get done in this lifetime. Question 731. Why has nature placed the agent of destruction side by side with the means of self-preservation? So why did nature put like destruction and self-preservation together? So maybe one species wants to destroy the other while that one just wants to preserve itself. So why are these side by side? And the spirits answered, the remedy besides the illness. We have already told you, in order to maintain balance and to serve as a counterweight. So it's to maintain balance and serve as a counterweight so we don't go too extreme in one way or the other. Say, if we only had destruction, then we would be fine destroying ourselves, destroying others, destroying everything, because we'd be like, oh, this is fine, we can destroy everything. But then when we have self-preservation, then, oh, I don't want to destroy myself, oh, I don't want to destroy this yet, that's mine, oh, I don't want this, so they balance each other out. So with the two side by side, there's more of an even balance than too extreme self-preservation or just destruction. Question 732. Is the need for destruction the same on all worlds? So, on all worlds, do we have destruction, or is it just some and not others? The spirits answered, it is in proportion to how material each particular world is. It disappears altogether in a pure physical and moral state. On worlds more evolved than yours, the condition of existence are altogether different. So the needs for destruction, they do differ from different worlds, because the worlds that are more evolved, they have less physical things, so they have less to even destroy. So why would they have that? So the existences of more evolved worlds are just kind of completely different to ours, so we can't really compare the two. But more evolved worlds have less of this destruction because they have less stuff to destroy, and their intelligence and morals are more evolved than ours. Question 733. Will the need for destruction always exist for humankind on Earth? So on Earth, for humankind, are we always gonna have this need for destruction? And the spirits answered, the need for destruction diminishes among humans to the degree that their spirit overcomes matter. That is why you may observe that the honor of destruction follows upon intellectual and moral development. So, as Earth does go evolving, and we know it's going to take a long time, but as the Earth does go evolving, and like the spirits that are on Earth are getting more evolved, then it will diminish. Like, we won't have such a strong sense of destruction, and that will diminish. Because as we can see, destruction is a very material thing. Like, if we, even talking about destroying people, you're just destroying the material body. So once you get more evolved and you start seeing past the material things, there'll be less of this need for destruction. Question 734. In their present state, do humans have an unlimited right of destruction in regards to animals? So right now, do humans have an unlimited right of how much animals they can destroy? Because we hunt animals, and many people eat animals. So they're saying, so is there a limited amount that we can destroy? And the spirits answered, that right is limited to the need of providing for the food and safety. Abuse has never been a right. So, okay, so that right, yeah, we do use animals to have food and safety, and that's fine, but providing for our needs, yes, that is that's good. That's in the right of destruction. We can get this because of our needs. But going above that, abusing that just for no reason, just people maybe who just hunt for fun without even the need of that, then that we're just abusing this right that we have. That's not good. But if it is for our rights or for what we need, then that's okay. Question 735. what about destruction that exceeds the limit of need and safety? Hunting, for instance, when it has no other objective than for pleasure of destroying needlessly. So here we're talking, like we brought up hunting. Hunting is not for, I mean, it could be for your needs, and if it is for your needs, then that's fine, but some people hunt just for fun. So what about that? They're destroying things just for fun, with no purpose. And so what happens when these things that we're destroying is going above what we need? And the spirits answered, it is a predominance of the animal nature over the spiritual nature. All destruction that exceeds the limit of need is a violation of God's law. Animals only destroy to satisfy their needs, but humans, who have free will, destroy without need. They will be called to account for abusing the freedom granted to them, because in such a case, they yielded to evil instincts. So, when we like just destroy stuff, or let's say like hunt just for no purpose, we're going back to our very like material roots instead of thinking more morally and more intellectually. We're thinking very material and like these like animal natures that we have as humans. So, and when we're exceeding our limit of, okay, you don't even need this, you're just destroying something like for fun, then we are violating God's laws, because God doesn't want that. And animals, they only destroy what they need. But humans, since we have free will, we go and we make more mistakes and we do stuff like this and we'll hunt like just for fun. But we shouldn't be doing that, because it should only be in what is necessary. And yes, some hunting is necessary. That is fine, but when we're doing it just for no purpose at all, that's when it becomes a problem. And we will have to come and account for what we do that's wrong. And it's not exactly that we're like the specific animals that we're like that are kind of like going to waste, but it's also just, it's about you taking like advantage of your free will and like your ability to do whatever you want to do, for better or for worse, doing whatever you want to do. If you're taking advantage of that and doing such things, then that's kind of the bigger problem than just simply, oh, you were hunting. It wasn't that you're hunting, but you're taking advantage of this free will and doing stuff that you know you shouldn't. Question 736. Do those cultures that carry their scrupulous to excess regarding the destruction of animals have any special merit? So those cultures that have this, scrupulousness, which means being, like careful and like paying attention to details. So these cultures that pay attention to these details regarding like going over destroying too many animals, do they have any special merit? And the spirits answered, such excess is a sentiment that in itself is praiseworthy, but it becomes abusive and its merit is neutralized by other kinds of abuse. They act more out of superstitious fear than true humaneness. So yeah, okay, so they are not having such an excess, and yeah, that's praiseworthy, but at the same time, it's not always like for the right reason. Like they're just kind of superstitious, which is why, so then because of their superstition, then it like kind of balances out that, okay, you're doing something good, but you don't really know why you're doing good, or you're doing good for like kind of the wrong reason. So it kind of like balances itself out. Now we are at the next section of this chapter, and this one's titled Destructive Calamities. And a calamity is an event causing great and often sudden damage. So something that we see that causes a lot of damage and destroys a lot of things. Like let's say like hurricanes and tsunamis and stuff like that, or like human inflicted ones, but also some of those. So these big things that destroy a lot. Question 737. For what purpose does God inflict humankind with destructive calamities? So why? Why do we have these things that destroy so much in one time? And the spirits answered, to impel them to progress more quickly. Haven't we stated that destruction is necessary for moral regeneration of spirits, who accomplish a new degree of perfection during each new existence? You must see the end in order to appreciate the result. You only judge such things from your own personal point of view, and you regard such afflictions as calamities because of the injury they cause you. However, these hardships are often necessary in order to make things arrive at a better order more quickly, and to accomplish in a few years what otherwise would require many centuries. So, these things happen to help us progress more quickly. And so, maybe a group of people, something, is in like a state of, it's just in a very bad state and living condition, and maybe that they're stuck in that. They're stuck in this like bad way of thinking, bad way of living, and we need to help them like progress. So maybe these things happen, like a natural disaster, to kind of destroyed everything, which is awful, but that's just the material things. With the people, it's helping them grow from that new experience and then grow as a new community, and then they're going to be able to improve themselves and kind of start changing the way that they were living, while this change can come in a few years now instead of centuries, because nothing happened to them, so they were just living, and it took centuries for them to change. Or with something great and like such a big thing that happened in their lives, it could help them change very quickly. And of course, when we see these awful things, yes, of course they need help. We shouldn't be like, oh, something terrible happened, but it's for their own good, we're just going to leave them. No, we should help, because it's also bringing us together. It's also helping, like, let's say countries come together when one country goes through something. But we shouldn't think of just like the material losses or the personal injuries to us, like when there are like hurricanes and people lose their homes. Somehow these hardships help people to improve their lives and to get better and to progress more quickly. So there is a purpose to it. It's not all cruel. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't help, but we just have to see that there is another purpose besides just these quote-unquote innocent people just losing everything. Question 738. Couldn't God employ other methods instead of destructive calamities for improving humankind? So it's saying like, I understand the last question, but why can't we do that in a different way? Why does it have to be through these big destructive things? And the spirits answered, yes, and they are employed every day. Through the knowledge of good and evil, God has given to each of you the means of progressing. However, humans do not take advantage of them. Thus, it is necessary to afflict them in their pride and make them feel their own weakness. So, yeah, we can improve ourselves on our own. We don't have to wait for some big disaster to happen for us to start improving ourselves. We can improve at any time. We can start progressing and learning and improving ourselves. But oftentimes we don't. We just sit here until something like that happens, and then we start acting, and then we start doing stuff. So that's why these things happen, because if God was just to leave us, we all have it within us to progress and to do better, but oftentimes we don't. And then there's a second part of this question, and it says, but the moral person succumbs to these calamities along with the wicked. Is this just? So in these like big disasters, it's not like, you're only hurting like quote unquote bad people. We're not hurting only bad people, we're hurting moral people too, good people too. So why is that? Is that fair? And the spirits answered, throughout life, humans relate everything to their body, but after death they think differently. As we have already stated, the life of the body is almost nothing. A century in your world is but a flash in eternity. The suffering that lasts a few of your months or days are nothing and are only a lesson that will serve you in the future. Spirits who pre-existed and have survived everything else compromise the real world. They are the children of God and the objects of the divine kindness. Bodies are no more than disguises behind which they make their appearance in the world. In the great calamities, that decimate humankind. Moral persons who succumb are like an army which, during war, see that its uniform has become tattered, worn out, or lost. The general is more concerned for his soldiers than their uniforms. So what they're saying is that, these, let's say, quote-unquote moral people, they do kind of go down in these disasters too, but it's because we're thinking so morally. We're thinking like, oh my god, it's horrible that these people are suffering and dying, but one, we already explained, dying is not going to be terrible. We know that there's so much beyond this world, that dying is not going to be terrible. This is just and if we're looking at eternity, a few human days, a few human months, a few human years, that's nothing. That's our time. That's like nothing if you're looking at eternity. Even if you live to 100, that's still nothing compared to forever. So really, it is just gonna, for all types of people, this is just gonna be something they're gonna learn from and grow from. And it's more important, and their physical body, yeah, we see all these physical damages, but the physical material things isn't our main concern. We're more concerned about what's on the inside. And then there's another part to this question, and it says, but aren't the victims of these calamities actual victims nonetheless? So, okay, but the victims of these, so they're saying the victims of these big destructions, they're still victims. And the spirits answered, if we consider life as it is in itself, and how insignificant it is in comparison with the infinite, the less importance we would attach to it. In another life, those victims will find ample compensation for their suffering if they will endure them without complaining. So, if we think about, again, they're saying, if we think about forever, the small disaster that they're going through right now, even if it seems like the end of the world, they're going to get through it, and and yes, okay, they lost everything, maybe. So in another life, they'll gain everything back, or they'll learn from that, and they gain that experience. So if we did it without complaining, and we really worked hard when these disasters happen, and not just go into despair. And then Allan Kardec puts his own comment in, and he says, whether death results from a calamity or an ordinary cause, we cannot escape it when the hour for our departure has come. The only difference is that in the former case, a greater number depart at the same time. If we could elevate ourselves through thought, so to encompass all humankind in a single glance, these terrible calamities would seem no more than a passing storm in the destiny of the worlds. So, what they're saying is that death from ordinary cause or calamities or huge disasters or just natural death, it is, when it's our time, it's our time. So, these people, it was just all their time at the same time. If we see it like that, we would have less of course it is sad, but we would have less despair of all these people dying at the same time. It was just all their time at the same time. If this natural thing didn't happen, it would kind of been all their times to die wherever they were individually anyway. So, and if we elevated ourselves to see from a higher thing, we could see that this is just a small thing that's happening in our worlds right now. But there's so much more going on in the bigger picture, and that's what's important to keep in mind. Because obviously these things might seem horrible, and when we lose someone, it seems horrible, but we have to realize that our world is just a small little step in what we really live forever. So that's where we'll leave off today, and we'll talk more about destructive calamities and these big disasters next week. But before we leave off, I'd like to read our message from the Daily Book of Positive Quotations for today's date, April 10th. This one's titled, Facing the Consequences. You can do anything in this world if you are prepared to take the consequences. What holds us back isn't necessarily what we don't know what to do. It's that we're worried about what will happen if we do it. What if people think we're being silly? What if we make enemies? What if our idea doesn't work the way we thought? People who make a difference are those who understand that taking an action may cause an equal and opposing reaction, but who take action anyway. I'm strong enough to handle any negative reactions when I do what I need to do. If at all you guys have any questions, comments, concern, anything at all you want to talk about, please feel free to email me at cardiacradioforteens@gmail.com and I'll get back to you right away. I'm Bia, and this is Cardiac Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening. This has been Cardiac Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.